A warm welcome to you and your money and to our viewers this evening. I'd like to thank you for joining us. I'm Bryan Hirsch, and this evening I'm focusing on the two-pot retirement system due to commence on the 1st of September. Recent statistics reinforce that 6 to 8% of South Africans can retire comfortably. Others will either have to rely on family, find additional work, or at best resort to the state. For those who've intended to make use of the two-pot retirement system, which has been signed into law to commence on the 1st of September, they need to understand the implications. The only individuals who contribute to pension and provident funds are employed, and if they are struggling to make ends meet, what about the unemployed? Very sad. Many of our viewers themselves will not make use of the two-pot system, and this evening we're going to deal with this. If you are an employer where your staff belong to retirement funds, it's imperative that you understand what this two-pot retirement system is all about. And joining this evening is Hetty Jaber, Managing Director of J Law Consulting, a company established with her son after her retirement from Momentum, where she was head of legal. Good to have you with Hetty, and you've been a great member of our team. Hetty, the first question is, just share with viewers exactly the two-pot system.
Two-pot system it's a misnomer to start off with because it's not two pots.
3 pots.
It's 3 components, not pots, components. In broad, it means that you will be able to get access to a portion of your retirement benefit without having to leave employment, so you don't have to resign to get your money. Also, members of retirement annuity funds who previously couldn't get access to their money at all will now be able to do that. But it's a very limited amount. It's only 1/3 of your contributions after the 1st of September that will be split off to your savings component from which you can get access. But that savings component will have an opening balance, which doesn't come from government, it comes from your own pocket. It comes from what you have built up in the fund until the 1st of September. And what you can take of that is 10% of your savings component, but it's limited to 30,000. So it is not 30,000. A lot of people heard 30,000 and they think that's what they're going to get on the 1st of September, but it's not that.
And Hetty, the numbers that probably apply could run to 1 million.
It can. There are a lot of members that are desperately wanting money, so they cannot wait for the 1st of September to come. But as I said, it is not 30,000. For you to be able to get an opening balance of 30,000, you would have had to have 300,000 in your fund as at the end of August. So if you only, for example, had 20,000, your opening balance in your savings component will be 10% of that, which is 2,000, not 32.
And on that portion, it's just one-off.
You can get one access per tax year, so between the 1st of March and the end of February. So for this first tax year, which is going to start on the 1st of September, until the end of Feb next year, you will have access only once. And the opening balance, that seeding capital that we talked about, is only once. You're not going to get that every single year. You only have that once. Thereafter, your savings component is comprised of your contributions, 1/3 of it. So 1/3 goes there, you can access it. 2/3 go to your retirement component, which you cannot touch until you get to retirement.
So it's virtually preserved. And you say when you can't touch it, is that even after when you resign?
Even if you resign. So if you were to resign, what you can get is everything that has built up until the 31st of August, so what's in your vested component, you can take all of that out, and that will be taxed on the tax table where the first 27,500 is tax-free. Plus you can get everything out of your savings component, but that part is going to be taxed on your marginal tax. But you're not allowed to touch your retirement component. So that you can only get when you get to retirement.
Now, do you think most members are aware of that?
I don't think that's the message that they heard. They only heard, I'm going to get access to my money. I don't think the message has sank in. You are going to get access to a portion of your benefit without having to resign, but the rest you cannot touch. So that preservation portion, I don't think that message has been emphasized enough.
So let me summarize. Up to the 31st of August, a certain amount will go into a pot, which will be a vested pot, which ultimately you can, if you resign or you die or you're retrenched, you can get hold of.
Yeah, not a portion of it, everything.
All of it.
So, yeah,
Okay.
your total benefit.
Okay,
As
but to
a
borrow,
vested-
but
yeah.
to get an access to it, you can get up to 10% of that pot once off only.
Yes, that's only once off. So 10% of your vested component goes into your savings component as the opening balance. And then from then, your savings component is built up with 1/3 of your contributions from 1st of
So
September.
future contributions, 2/3 will go into a pot which you're not going to be able to access,
Absolutely.
and the 1/3 you'll be able to draw the whole amount.
You can draw as much as you want, but there's always a condition. You are not allowed to take anything out there unless what is in your savings component is at least 2,000 Rand. So you have to have a minimum of 2,000 in there to be able to access. And that's another thing that members don't appreciate. If you only had, let's for example say you had 15,000 on the 31st of August, then what's going to go into your savings component is going to be 10%. 1,500, it's less than 2,000, which means that on the 1st of September you cannot take anything out, not yet. You have to wait for your contributions, 1/3, plus whatever is in your savings component as the opening balance to get to 2,000. So if you had very little, you're not going to get anything on.
So let's understand the 2/3 that future contributions, if you resign, can you not convert that to a preservation fund?
Nope. Yes, you can.
But then in the preservation fund you can withdraw.
No. Because remember, what can you withdraw from a preservation fund? You can make one pre-retirement withdrawal. Pre-retirement. You cannot touch your retirement component. So if you had a vested component and a savings component and a retirement component and you resign and you don't take anything, you take all of that and you put it in a preservation fund. What you can take out of the preservation fund is everything in your savings component taxed at marginal rate and everything in vested component taxed at on the tax table. It's exactly the same that you can take inside of your pension and provident fund. So there you can take everything invested, everything in savings, but you cannot touch retirement. So even if you transfer it to another fund, you still cannot touch anything until retirement. But remember, if you're on a pension and provident fund, let's say your retirement age is 65. If you transfer that benefit across to a preservation fund, in the preservation fund, the retirement age is 55. So you can take a retirement benefit in the preservation fund at any stage from age 55. So you'll be able to get the money earlier than if you left it in your pension and provident fund. But you can't, it's not a pre-retirement withdrawal, it's a retirement benefit. And it means everything in your retirement component, you must use all of that to buy an annuity. You can't take it as a lump sum unless it's less than 165.
Now, we had that some 10 years ago when we were talking about pension reform, and there was an enormous amount of controversy and objections to that preservation.
The compulsory preservation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't get something without giving something up. So the something that you get is access to your money before you retire without having to resign. But what you give up for that is compulsory preservation of a portion of your benefit.
So now let's talk. Any money you withdraw is taxed at marginal rates.
From a savings component, yes.
Please explain, because many of our viewers don't understand what marginal rates mean.
So that is the tax that you pay on your income. If you get a taxable income, I can't remember what the tax threshold is, but anything over the tax threshold where you start paying tax, you don't pay tax at 45%. There is no such thing. Because 45% is the top bracket, but the portions less than that, you pay less tax on it. So you can't, nobody can ever say, I pay tax at 45%. You pay, it's on a sliding scale, so you start with the first
18%?
Yeah, but there's a certain...
130,000, 120,000.
Yeah, whatever the tax threshold
Up to 185, it's a maximum 18%.
Yes, so then the next bracket is, what is it? I can't remember what the next bracket is.
Goes to 20, not 31%,
Yeah.
so on.
So you're not going to pay 45%, but whatever you pay on your normal taxable income, that's also the tax that you can pay on your savings.
So, because what actually happens is any amount you withdraw gets added to your taxable income and will probably push you into a new bracket.
It can very well, yeah.
So someone drawing 30,000, 10% of that component could find that at 30% tax, they're only going to get 21,000 rand.
Absolutely. And if you owe SARS money, that's also going to come off. And what you're not allowed to do, so you can't do fishing. So you can't say, I want a simulated tax directive to be done to see what my tax is going to be. Then in that simulation, for whatever reason, the IT88 doesn't pull through. So it doesn't tell you that you owe SARS. When you then apply for the real tax directive, if it then comes out that you owe SARS, you can't just then turn around and say, no, sorry, I don't want this, because I don't want to pay SARS rear taxes. You are going to pay the rear taxes. So what comes off is the cost for that withdrawal and the tax comes off. So don't think that you're going to get 30,000 if that's what you have in there, because you have to pay the tax first.
Okay, then you also made the comment, if you resign, the 2/3 has to go into, it can go into a preservation fund, but can't be touched till retirement.
Yep.
But you did make the comment retirement can be reduced to age 55.
Yeah.
The balance you're going to take out in cash, and you're saying that's not based on the withdrawal tables, that's going to be added to your taxable income and treated at marginal rates.
Remember, you have to remember that you can potentially have 3 different components, and each component has different access rules and different tax. So if you had a vested component and a savings component and a retirement component, you can take out the vested component, taxed on the tax table, the withdrawal tax table, where the first 27,500 is tax free. If you want to take out your money in your savings component, that's going to be taxed at your marginal rate. Retirement component, you cannot take anything out. And that, all of it, not 2/3, all of it, you have to use to buy an annuity.
But you could preserve the cash component. Instead of withdrawing it, you could move it to a preservation fund.
Yeah, you don't
to avoid
have
the
to
tax.
You don't have to take it. So if you don't take anything and you get to retirement, so you haven't touched your vested component and you haven't touched your savings component, then everything in your savings component plus 2/3 of your
Retirement.
one third of your vested component plus everything in your savings component, that you can take as a lump sum. And that's going to be taxed on the retirement tax table, where the first 550,000 is tax free.
Okay, well, we're going to take a short break. I haven't yet finished questioning about the two-pot system. Stay with us. We'll also deal with a lot of your emails that came in from our last program.